I may not have mentioned this, but I'm trying to set this truck up to run on veggie oil, reclaimed veggie oil, which I'm going to filter and burn in the engine because it's quite an old engine. It's got a fuel pump that can take that. So what I've just done is I've just got these two Ryco filters. One of them is a 3 micron, one is a 1 micron. So obviously I'm going to run the veggie oil from the clean tank in through here. This is an arrow, I don't know if you can see that, in. Then it crosses over and goes out through that outlet. By the way, these outlets took some sorting. I had to get them from a hydraulics place, they're not cheap. And then from this 3 micron filter, it'll go into a 1 micron filter, which is what the motor will be happy with. Through this again, it's just the same filter, but a different, same housing, but a different filter, and then back out through here. So in, out, and then this will run to the valve, the Polac valve, which will switch it from either veggie to diesel, depending on what I've got available, and also to purge the veggie oil out of the lines and the injector as I come to a stop or an overnight camp, because you don't want veggie oil in your lines and your injectors cold because of the viscosity, and also veggie oil polymerizes when it's in contact with anything metallic or ferrous metals, so it's best to keep it running through the rubber pipes and away from the injectors and fuel pump. Especially when it's overnight. When it's running and it's hot, it's fine. Anyway, so these ones I had to buy. These were the original outlets from the fuel tank, and of course, being a Freightliner, it's all American, but I managed to get from the same shop, hydraulic shop. I could only get 90-degree ones, but they still work. With these push-on barbed fittings, these had a special solid clamp type, which is probably better, but yeah, I didn't know the lengths, and I wasn't going to get the guy to make one up because I would have ended up having to go back and forth to get it cut and resized. This way I can just push them on, size them up myself, and clamp them on. And apparently with these you don't even have to clamp them because they're slightly, it's supposed to be a 3/8, but they're slightly bigger than a 3/8, which means the rubber pipe will be very secure on there. So I've got 2 sets of these. That's for one tank, that's for one tank. And here are all the other fittings, including the rubber pipes. And over here I've got the heat exchanger with similar setup, but not quite the same because of the way the heat exchanger works. I'll explain that. Another bag of bits. I'll explain all that when I get closer to it. So now I'm going to go measure up and mount these two and make sure there's enough space for the heat exchanger as well, which I'm going to run straight after the veggie oil tank. I'm not sure if that's the right thing to do. I'll probably have to end up putting another heat exchanger somewhere else. But we live in Australia, so it's not a huge concern because it's quite warm generally most of the time. And if I'm in a situation where I think it's too cold to run the veggie oil, I'll just run it on diesel. So here I am outside. It's quite a bright day. This is going to be my clean oil tank, and the dirty one is going to go there. So it'll go from the dirty up over into a centrifuge, which will live here somewhere, and then it'll come out of the centrifuge and then through gravity drop into this tank, and it'll drop into this tank down there, which you can't see the fittings. I've got the fittings in my hand, so I'm going to put those in now. And the 2 filters I'm thinking of putting along that cross member there, and the heat exchanger somewhere in this corner. So the pipes will run from down here under the chassis up to the heat exchanger to one of the filters from one filter to the next, and then down back there, and you'll see two pipes down there which are going to another fitting over there. I don't know if you can see that on camera, the other chassis rail, and that's going to go into the engine. So that's the plan. Let's get underneath and put these two on, just to give me an idea of where they're going to locate. So bear with me. Oh, okay. So here we are. So here's the tank. As you can see, that's where the two in and outlets. Now, as far as I'm concerned, return is always the smaller one. So I'm going to put the return, which is a smaller BSB fitting compared to the other one, which is bigger. I don't know if you can see that. So here we go. Put this one on there. It's just temporary. I'm not putting any sealing tape or anything on there yet. Just want to see what it looks like. Hopefully there's enough room to get both these in. This one off. Here we go. So that's those two. I'll fit them something like that, and then what I'm going to do is run the pipes up along here. Bit further up. Yeah, it's a bit awkward, something like that maybe. Across there and up there, or straight up there. Might be better. Anyway, so as you can see here, this is the it's a bit weird, the light, but this is my Polac valve bracket that I fabricated and modified a piece of angle. Found some extra bolts, put them on. These are the pipes that I've had cut, and then I got a guy to braze or silver solder a union on here, one here. Take a chunk out. I now wish I'd taken a bit more out than what's there. And it's already rusting, but here's the other side, and obviously they're going back to the tank. So the top one is return, these ones feed into the motor via the Polac valve. Had to make some alterations with the brackets because they come in side by side, so you can see I've had to bend that one at 45, and I've had to fabricate this one here to bring these two at 45. I've actually put this the wrong way around, it should be the other way around. This is the Polac valve. It's just a name called Polac. I don't know why they put them at a weird angle like this, so I had to fabricate something for it to sit on there so that the pipes, I don't know if you can see that, can line up. I'll explain a bit more when I've got it put together. Hey everyone, back in the shed. I'm now fabricating some brackets to hold the heat exchanger, and like I said in the last video, I think my heat exchanger is a bit on the small side. I ordered it and I didn't do enough research on the subject, so I've now fabbed it up so it will take the largest version, which is quite thick. It's 160 mil tall, and it's about 2.4 kilos in weight. So I'm making these brackets up here, and what I've done, they were originally the mounting brackets for the torsion system, and these are all the leftovers, and I just thought, you know what, instead of using this scrap, bending it, cutting it, it's a perfect L shape. It just needed to be angled a little bit more, so I've used my trusty bandsaw, cut the corners off, as you can see. Cut these little corners off at 45 degrees, and then put them in the vise and put a little slot through them like so. so I can get a bend out of them. And all I did was bash them down with the hammer and got a slightly, I don't know, 100 degrees, 110, something like that. So it'll sit on the chassis like so and angle downwards. All will be clear when I get to the actual chassis itself. Right now I'm just going to trim them off so they fit properly behind the tank. Now, this is the heat exchanger, but I got the smallest one, thinking, oh, we're in Australia, why would we have to heat stuff up to that extent? But I think you need to heat it up to 70 degrees, the veggie oil, to get it more, less viscous, so it can go through the system better. So this one apparently is a tin-plated one, and it's 45 from here to here in millimeters. The big one, which is a 60 plate one, is the same distance as this block that I put on here. So I put it on here so I can mock it up against the truck better, but that distance there is 160. So with all the fittings and what have you, it's, you know, you need to make sure that it doesn't interfere with anything else. So here's one of the brackets that I've made up. That's going to go on the chassis like so, and now I'm about to drill the hole. I'm going to drill a hole in here somewhere where my thumb is to match the little mount holes here. I've drilled a hole in there to match that one, so I'm just doing this one for now. I've just put a little bit of a gap here on my belt sander to make sure it doesn't interfere with those pipes, and then I'm going to go and mount it on the truck. So this is obviously upside down. It's going to look something like that on the truck, so at a slight angle like that. So here's where it's going to go. It's going in there between the tank, and there's the outlets from the tank. So this is the veggie oil tank. This is going to go along there. It's another day. Finally finished fabricating all the brackets to hold my heat exchanger, which I've cut and angled. They were made out of the scraps I showed you before. It's a bit of an angle. That's the chassis. So they're still a bit hot because I've just finished welding them. So they'll bolt into the chassis. So they'll effectively be like that. And then these I've made yesterday. I'm just about to clean them up. So they're going to be like straps. It's recommended by the manufacturer to have some sort of strapping system. So I've basically cut these two pieces out of a piece of sheet metal down there, with a strap from a scrap guy, and they're going to basically bolt like that. So one will go bolt through the chassis there, and the other will go through the hole here with the nut on the other end, just like a tank strap. Same with this one. So they'll look effectively like that. My first 3 micron filter that I talked about before. That'll be the outlet going down to the heat exchanger, which is behind that rail, between the rail and the tank. Then it goes from that one straight through here into this one and out through this one. I've got this elbow here which is going to fit on that. It'll go down that way, and if I spin the camera around, hopefully you'll see it. The Polac valve to tank B inlets here, the bigger one, that's going to feed straight to the engine, and that's the return which will go straight back to the tank. As you can see, these are the two feed and return for the main diesel tank, which is right here, which is the original. So I've basically spliced into this part to get the Polac valve in, which is this thing here, which is basically a motor driven gate that opens from this side to this side depending on which tank you want feeding, and then either way it'll then run straight into the engine and then return this way via the valve and then back to whichever tank you've selected. So that's the theory. I've not known anyone else to do it this way, but I'm sure there are lots of ways of getting around this problem. Anyway, let's keep working. Best tool ever. Show you some more progress. So the brackets are finally done, painted, and they're going to get bolted here to give you some scale. Dab of grease just to make sure you don't get too many issues with rust. Not too much because we want it to lock in. Cutouts for the pipes. So I'm not going to fully tighten them yet because I want to make sure the actual heat exchanger fits nicely. So I've actually dremeled, I don't know if you can see that, but I've dremeled arrows in and out because there's a certain way that it goes according to the manufacturer. So F3 to F1, from F2 to F4, and I think these are the similar fluids this way, similar fluids this way. So this is going to be the fuel and that's going to be the water. So if I remember, I want my tank to pick up in from here, so arrow in this way, so we're orientating it this way, not that way. So the water will be that side, fuel this side, so it's going to come out in through here from the tank, out from here through those filters, back down and straight into the motor. So I'm just going to line these up. So I'll just bring you along with me. So I don't know if you can see that because I certainly can't. There we go. So I'll line this two up so you can see it's a bit off this way or that way. A bit more off than I'd like it. Try again. Well, if I had half a brain, I'd be lethal. These are supposed to be on the outside, not the inside. I've got them back to front. Now we've got these notches the right way around. Hopefully it'll fit, because that's how I designed it. Oh, look at that. I love it when things come together. So there we go. That sits on there. So now that I'm happy with that, I'm going to tighten these up fully, but before I do that I'm going to take these two out because that's where my strapping is going to be put on, which I've let dry overnight. So this fella and this fella, which is left out in the sun, is going to go on here. Put that one on. So I'm not going to put them on fully because I want to make sure this can go on first. So in it goes. Make sure the orientation, yes, correct. There we go. So it must be on size. But anyway, you can see how it goes. So those straps strap on. It needs a bit of adjusting, but basically that's it. Piece of rubber goes on top of there. You get the gist. There we go. There we go.